Welcome to episode 33.
Oof, the big 3-3.
3-3. Launch Radio.
Getting up there, getting old.
Tell you what, we sure
Oh
are.
my God. Do you hear that? It's like a military helicopter coming.
Right
Are
at
they
the
trying
beginning.
to find you?
They are. They're like
the virus?
landing.
That's so loud.
Oh wow! I think they're coming.
They're coming for
us.
you.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I think they're looking for the
Jesus,
coronavirus.
Should I hide you in the closet?
I mean, we might. I mean, it's coming. It's going to land.
All right. I think they can't find you.
We're in the clear, I think, but we have a surprise. Episode 33.
No. You wait just a second. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Because really, if you think about it, January is not really the first of the year. We need the month of January to get through 2019. We need that extra month. So truly, February is the start of 2020. This is when everyone's like, okay, now I'm going to start my goals for the year.
So January is just practice.
Yes, January is just a practice.
We
have to get through just like a release from the last year. It takes us 31 days to do that. Then February is like, okay,
so
now let's do it.
A lot of residual.
Correct. Now everyone's like, okay, new me. Now it's new year.
So
happy New Year again to everyone.
We hope you have your February New Year's resolutions.
Correct.
Because February is the real start of the year.
That's correct.
And now is it's the time to focus in. So
what you have a surprise.
Oh yeah, so we have a surprise. I have a surprise actually, and I wanted to say, with the concerns about coronavirus, I said last week that I had ordered a mask, and this thing is high tech. Like, let me tell you, Kira. Okay, this thing is high tech. So it has I haven't really worn it a ton.
That's a ski mask.
But it's right there, and you put it on. It's got a motor. Look at that thing.
What?
It's got a motor in it, and I haven't really put it together. Because the motor...
So you could have the coronavirus right now.
It has batteries. It has batteries. And the funny thing about it is it was actually shipped from China. So my coronavirus mask, which I haven't worn, and I don't know if I ever will wear.
Is actually coming from the originating source of the virus.
Correct. So I probably just got it.
Genius.
By putting the mask from
I'll
China.
show you my mask.
On...
This is the Kira mask. See, I wore the onesie so I could show you.
The Kira mask, Corona mask.
Which, see, I can zip it up all the way.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
No, nothing can get through this onesie.
So we've each got our Corona.
Now I can't see, but
that will block the Corona. I think it'll work, Kira.
It won't get into my pores and into my
I think it's perfect.
Into my body. Okay, how do I get out of this thing?
She's trapped in her mask.
Here, I'll just talk for the people.
She's going to do the podcast like this today because she's trapped in her mask.
Damn it.
We're working on the mask.
Mine's not from China. That's why it's not working.
Yeah, that's right. It's not a good...
Just continue and I'll continue trying to get this
USA.
off.
Anyway, while she's working on her... Amazing. While she's working on getting her mask off.
To get my mask off.
We're going to start the episode, and let me say that episode I can't even Kira is trapped in a hoodie. Does anybody have any advice? She's trapped in the hoodie.
Just cut me out, Geoff.
She put her coronavirus hoodie mask on and she got trapped in it, and we can't get her out.
It seemed like such a good idea.
Oh Lord. Oh,
my
Lord.
hair's all stuck in the zipper.
Do you want me to...
No. Just keep going. I'll chime in while I'm doing this.
She's working on her hair with the zipper.
This was such a great idea.
In the meantime. But we're going to get going anyway. And today we have quite the topic.
Yes, we do.
I mean, let me tell you, we are discussing...
Don't look at me.
We're discussing a... very popular topic, by the way, on the internet, which is she's going to do the podcast like this today.
Well, I don't want to have to cut my hair.
She might have to.
No, I'm not cutting my hair.
She's not cutting her hair. But it's a topic that is really discussed a lot. I did a Periscope on it I don't know, maybe a month ago, where I talked a little bit about it. She got
I'm
out.
free. I'm
She
free.
got out.
I can join the podcast.
She can join the podcast. That is amazing. That is amazing. Sorry. That's just too funny. That is hilarious.
Okay, today's topic.
She's free
I'm like a
from
little
her
butterfly.
corona mask.
I came out of my cocoon.
For those listening on the radio, you have to check out the YouTube version of this because you will see Kira trapped in her coronavirus
I'm a butterfly. I'm a pretty
hoodie
butterfly.
mask. But she's here.
I didn't get corona. I mean, it worked.
It's always
Ripped
perfect.
half my hair out, but you know.
But she made it. She made it.
Today's episode
Is good times. Today's episode is about, anyway, so Kira's out of her corona mask. All's good. You saw mine. That's fun times. And today we're discussing a very popular topic. And it's really big on the internet. I did a Periscope on it about a month ago where I talked about it. It was created by Dilbert, comic book creator, and now he's an entrepreneur and author, Scott Adams, where it was back in 2016, he started talking about it. And it was this idea of two movies on one screen and the possibility that reality is two movies on one screen. And we really have been wanting to do this one for a while now. And I feel like
you've been wanting to do this one for a while. I've been the one who was like, let's do genealogy. Let's do ancestry. Let's do sex with robots or something.
We've been doing her topics a lot.
Yes, that's correct. And now it's back to Geoff and what he wants to talk about. Mandela and blah, blah, blah.
And
simulation.
Now we're
blah.
back to my topics again. So
but
we rotate.
I did do a lot of research on it. And I was like, well, of course there's two screens. I mean, it was like, to me, it was like, of course that makes sense. And actually, the more, and I'll have you describe it, but I think the more people that understand this and put it into their own practice, it'll make the world a much happier place.
I think it will.
It'll bring down the you're right, I'm wrong, or, you're wrong, I'm right stuff, because it's like, we're all living in our own reality, and it's what may be insane to you is actually that's someone's reality, Yeah,
I think that the way to best describe it. Well, first, I want to read a little excerpt for everybody from Scott Adams to kind of tee this up. And he summed it up really well in a book that he wrote. And let me bring up the clip or the...
That's the smallest screen I've ever seen on a computer, by the way.
I know. I have a really small
What is
screen.
that, like 10 inches?
Yeah, it's a small MacBook Air.
That's what she said.
But funny, Kira. Okay. So anyway, what the excerpt said, and this will help sum it up for you guys, is Scott wrote about it in his book. And what he said was the two movies on one screen, and he basically said that, and I'll just read it. He said, I've been saying that since Trump's election, that the world has split into two realities, or as I prefer to say, two movies on one screen. And most of us don't realize it. We're all looking at the same events and interpreting them wildly differently. That's how cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias work. They work together to create a spontaneous hallucination that gets reinforced over time. That hallucination becomes your reality until something changes. The phenomenon has nothing to do with natural intelligence. We like to think that the people on the other side of the political debate are dumb, underinformed, or just plain evil. That's not the case. We're actually experiencing different realities. And I mean that literally. So I read that, and
I don't know if it started just when Trump election started, but I think it's more apparent.
I think that because of how Trump is and who he is and what he does, that because it's so divisive,
right.
People see, it's much easier to see the two realities because he's so natural. Like he sparks people's, triggers and
it's very polarized where it's like
polarized.
You either hate him or you like him. There is really true no in between.
Correct.
It's not like, well, he has a point there. It's polar opposites. Everyone's on different sides. And it's like, and it's the point of the finger. You're wrong. I'm right. You're dumb. And it's like, well, and we've actually touched on this stuff before, whereas Trump's policies, though they may not make sense to one person, make absolute sense to another. So, I think it actually started way before the Trump thing.
Really?
But I think it's just shown itself a little bit more. People like in West Virginia or in towns that want a businessman and want a smart businessman to run the country. It makes sense. His policies make sense. So when he says things, they're like, yeah, that's correct. He'll say the exact same thing, but to someone else who can't stand him will be like, he's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and I guess the lesson within it is if you can see topics that people disagree on, I mean, Trump is obviously a big one, but even these individual topics where people believe something because they see reality that way, if you start to incorporate that what they're seeing in their belief system is really the reality that they're living in, like they've really come to believe that.
Correct.
So if you have Trump supporters who are for him, and then you have anti-Trump people on the far other side, the reality they're living in is that to one side, Trump is like this hero to them, like literally, he's a hero. And the other side, he is the ultimate villain, bad guy. How can you see this?
Adolf Hitler.
Like terrible on one side, like unbelievably amazing on the other.
So according to Scott Adams,
those people are really experiencing.
Correct.
That.
It's actually possible to be living in two different realities. So
correct.
So for us to say, well, that person's dumb or that person's stupid or whatever, you're only seeing it from your own reality, whereas you can't actually be in that other person's reality. You don't know from their own reality how they see the world.
Correct. And that's what's so amazing about it is...
And I think he had mentioned like two people could be watching a movie sitting side by side. One could be watching a romance movie and the other one could be watching a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time.
On the same screen.
Two different realities.
That's right.
And it's all about that cognitive, perception and...
It's kind of like, and by the way, I see the world this way. And I did a Periscope on this a month ago where I talked about two movies on one screen. And I just see the world that way. So there's two movies and everybody has bias, including me, like we all have bias. But when I look at both sides of any issue, I see that, like, I don't understand why people can't pull back and see that, like, both of those are happening and then try to, like, weigh the two sides of things on every issue. Like, that's just, it's like there's two movie theaters, like you're saying, there's two movie theaters. One's seeing a topic this way, one's seeing it the other way. There's projectors going up on the same screen. That's like the visual of it. And so you've got a crowd in one theater and you've got a crowd in another, and there's light going up to the same screen. Well, I'm out in the lobby and I'm getting popcorn.
Well, all of us are living the life.
And I'm wondering why we've got these two theaters on every issue. And I mean, obviously there's other people in the lobby too, and you can go in and out of movies, but like everybody's got bias, including me, but I don't understand why there's not more people who aren't looking at things that way, I guess, from the lobby is what I would say. And there are people I noticed that do it, that can kind of do it, and I listed them on my Periscope a month ago, but apparently it's not easy for people at all. And I think that when people start to be able to see that, they'll be able to see the world in a more, I guess enlightened is the best way, a more, understanding way that like people didn't see it before, a way in which you didn't see it before.
So you ran across this the other day, right? Because I saw your Facebook blowing up and I woke up and I'm like, I'm sorry, what did I miss? And I'm reading all of this and I'm like, what in the hell?
Right.
So it had to do with the Super Bowl champions and where they're actually from. And it pertained to a tweet that Trump had made congratulating the champions.
And the way I would sum it up, so an example of this happened yesterday and the night before last is after the Super Bowl, Trump sent a tweet that said, he congratulated Kansas City, but he congratulated Kansas City and said Kansas City, Kansas.
Right.
The internet exploded, said, no, Kansas City's in Missouri. Kansas City's in Missouri. Change it to Missouri. And so he then changed it to Missouri. And then I went on afterwards and said, no, Trump is doubly wrong. He's been wrong twice. Trump's wrong twice because it wasn't in, like, Kansas City is not just in Kansas. It's not just in Missouri. It's actually in both.
No, right.
And I have friends that live there that confirm this. You can look online and it's confirmed. The city and the proper and the county all stretches out. There's a Kansas City, Kansas, and a Kansas City, Missouri. So both exist, okay? So I believe because it's in both states technically, that both states should be congratulated.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was my movie. However, there's another movie, and it is the movie that the couple guys were looking at things through, Tyler and Aaron, and
not to mention any names.
But I don't hold anything against what they were saying, and I was trying to, like, I understand the movie that they were seeing it in, which, like, let me explain this, is that they're looking at the states. They're looking at it from a state's perspective.
Right.
And they're saying, since the Chiefs are located in Missouri, and then a former Senator Claire McCaskill was tweeting about, I've been tweeting with her about it, but, the taxpayers in Missouri pay to fund the Chiefs. So it's Missouri's team, technically. That movie is totally correct. So Tyler's right.
Right.
Tyler is right. And I hope he hears this because, like, I never denied that he was right. That is one movie is correct. However, there's another movie. And I just wanted them to see that movie. And it didn't quite work out.
No,
Let's put it that way.
And it was like, you know how it goes on social media, like two people who either know each other or don't know each other will get in a little disagreement. And then it'll perpetuate, and then more people will add on. Mm-hmm. So, like, the gangs start to form. We have our social media gangs,
Mm-hmm.
especially women. Women love having their social media gangs and gang up on men. I don't. I just saying it. However,
gangs form on social media.
Yes.
Group up.
All these little gangs, everyone forms and is like, yeah, Geoff, you're wrong, and rawr, and then someone else comes in, and then it starts to implode, and then it turns into, like, very, very angry.
Yeah.
Very angry comments, and then you're like, whoa, why are you being so offensive all of a sudden? And these people just get very upset about the most minute topic. And it's like, how much time was spent arguing between...
But I think it's
you're just
100%. But I think it's a good way, it's a good sample of how to see the two movies, in that if you look at it from the state's perspective, yes, that Kansas City, in Missouri, technically from the state perspective, Missouri is the Chiefs. But what I'm looking at the movie from is that Kansas City is in two states. It stretches into two states. And there's fans that are from both states that are fans of the Chiefs. And because the city, they're the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're in both states, they are technically, both states should be mentioned because the city they represent is in both states.
Right.
The city that the Chiefs play for is in both states.
So what was the end result?
Now, some people come on Twitter, like, here's how people are dumb. I mean, like, this is how people know that, this is how to find out if you're dumb. Like, somebody came on Twitter this morning or something, and they were like, there are two separate Kansas cities. One's in Kansas and one's in Missouri. So he's saying there's two separate Kansas cities.
Right.
And who would why would anybody set something up like that? Like, imagine if we put another Los Angeles next to Los Angeles, and we said, this is one Los Angeles.
Right.
And this is the other Los Angeles. So that doesn't make any sense.
Did you send him a map?
I sent everybody maps. I didn't send the guy this morning. So it doesn't make sense to say they're two separate Kansas cities. Like, yes, they're in two states, but it's still the same city and county. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is that somebody's saying about, they said like, well, Jacksonville, there's a Jacksonville, North Carolina, and there's Jacksonville, Florida. Okay. Those are separate Jacksonvilles.
Correct.
So you can't say that, Jacksonville, North Carolina is not representing the Jacksonville, Florida Jaguars. That's not a good argument. So that falls out the window.
Where I'm like, okay, like I cannot.
Yeah, I could go on like this for a while.
Oh, I know you can. You love it.
Yeah, but I understand what they're saying. I just don't agree with the movie.
But
like that movie has a good argument.
At the end of the day, your friend
he unfriended me. He unfriended me. I don't know. I mean, that's fine. I think the guy's great. He's a very talented filmmaker. I actually said this I said it to him directly. He's a great person, a very talented filmmaker, and I have nothing against him. Still don't. I'm not a big grudge person. I don't even know how to do that.
I don't know either, really. I mean, I just kind of, it comes back to that present. It's like, why hold on to that stuff? But there are people that are just so firmly stuck in their own reality that there's no such thing as another one. What they see is this little tiny bit of the world, and everything else around them is incorrect.
So what is it? Do you think it's a fear of being
wrong?
Do you think it's a fear of being wrong?
I don't think a lot of people can wrap their heads around that two people can be right at the exact same time based on their own realities. That to them makes their head explode.
Does that make anybody's head explode? Like, I'm curious about that. Anybody who's watching on YouTube or Twitter or whatever, because it doesn't make my head explode. Does it make your head explode?
No, it makes sense because, and to be honest, the more that we can understand this concept where it's like, hey, that person is speaking from their point of view and their point of view, aka their reality.
Their movie.
That doesn't mean, correct. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. So if we could understand that, we wouldn't get in so many arguments and fights about anything, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, think of like trade wars and all the stuff that even the governments have to go through. It's like, you're doing X and you're doing X. And it's like, yeah, but they're living in different movies. They're looking at things radically different.
Right.
Because they don't know any other way to look at it except their own reality and their own movie.
So it's like two people. Okay. I love using the 6-9 metaphor. Have you seen that photo where it's a 6 and a 9?
Yes.
So one reality, they're looking at the 6 face up. And then the other reality, they're looking at the 9.
Right.
But it's still just that one clump. It's that one.
Well, you don't remember that dress that was like,
the dress.
It purple? Is it yellow or whatever?
That's a good example.
That's a good example where people are like, no. And it was like ferocious arguments over it.
Yeah.
I mean, like gnarly.
Yeah.
People couldn't wrap their head around that both could be right.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, that was one. And Laurel and Yanni was another.
Yanni.
Oh, you haven't heard of Laurel Yanni? Where you hear him saying Laurel, 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 but some people hear Yanni, Yanni, Yanni.
What song?
It's just a phrase. Laurel, Laurel, Laurel. Like, as I'm saying that, you would hear Yanni.
Who thinks Laurel. That it's saying Yanni when you say Laurel?
Oh, you can hear either one. And
you can hear Yanni right now?
I'll bring this up. Yeah.
Wait, you, when I say Laurel, can hear Yanni.
In this recording, you can.
Oh, okay.
It's an actual recording.
I thought you meant like me actually saying the word Laurel, and you're like, yeah, I can hear Yanni. And I'm like, what? That's just insane.
If that starts happening, we're really going
I'll just hit you on the head
to different realities.
That means you've just
she'll trap me in the coronavirus mask that she's got there, her hoodie.
I'm so happy I got that off. That was scary.
Laurel,
for a few seconds.
Was it? I could have helped you get it off. You got it. I figured you were getting it.
I got it. I was getting it. It just was like, it took me a little bit.
Like, okay. Yeah, this is the audio where some people hear Laurel and some people hear Yanni.
I've never heard of this.
You've never heard this?
This came out a year ago?
A year ago.
What was I doing a year ago?
This was like we were recording podcasts. Yeah, this thing was like big.
Yanni versus Laurel. Which name do you hear?
Which name do you hear, Laurel or Yanni?
Is it because the recording is whoever's recording it, or is it because of...
It's because you hear what you want to hear. What do you hear?
Laurel?
You do?
Yes, of course.
I heard Yanni.
How are you hearing Yanni?
I hear Yanni right now.
What?
Yeah.
It's Laurel.
No. That's saying Yanni. You know? Kira's mind's blown. Mind blown moment. It just happened officially.
Yeah, but I don't understand. It's saying Laurel.
No, it's not. It's saying Yanni. And there's the Brainstorm Green Needle one. I'd be curious what viewers hear on Yanni or Laurel.
It's Laurel.
Now let's do Brainstorm Green Needle.
Whoever thinks it's Yanni is crazy. I'm sorry.
We'll do one more for you guys.
After we just talked about how everyone's right.
Okay, Suzanne Ann can only hear Yanni. Jamie. Hi, Jamie. Hi, Ren. Just saying hi to some people. Hi, Amanda. Okay, Amanda hears Yanni.
What?
All right, we'll do a few more. All right, now we're doing another one. Brainstorm Green Needle. What do you guys hear? Yeah, you haven't seen these.
No.
Wow. See, these are the two movies. So these are two movies.
I need to get out more.
Some people... Do you hear Brainstorm or Green Needle?
Green Needle. Green Needle.
Okay, now think Brainstorm in your mind. Brainstorm, brainstorm, brainstorm.
No, I don't hear the storm, the M. No, it's for
Brainstorm.
sure Green Needle.
Brainstorm every
No,
time.
it's not.
Yes, it is.
I'm not even looking at it, and I'm like clearing my head. I hear Brain Needle, which is...
Okay, so Kira is in the middle of the two movies. Do you guys on YouTube hear Brainstorm or Green Needle? Yeah, Kira's out getting popcorn. One more.
It's Brain Needle.
Brain Needle.
Yes. I don't hear storm at all. There's no T and there's no M. There's no articulation at all in that.
The M's clear as day. Brainstorm.
Oh, this is why I hate doing your topics.
See? Her mind has been blown. Okay, okay, so Kira...
I'm going to sit myself back up in my hood.
Oh, boy. So Green Needle... Some people hear Green Needle. Okay, we have Amanda hearing Green Needle. Susan hears Green Needle.
You hear Brainstorm?
We've got Jem in here hearing Laurel on the
Just listen to when I say
Yanni.
Brainstorm, Green Needle.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that they're very opposite.
Yeah.
There's no M anywhere or a T in the Green Needle.
That's right.
I hear Brain Needle, so I'm right because I'm in the middle.
So Kira's hearing both in the lobby. She hears Lonnie. She hears Laurani. You hear both?
I mean, I hear Laurel.
Laurel
for sure.
only.
I mean, it's very clear as day in my head. Does that mean why does that mean? What does that mean, Geoff? Does that mean our own capacity of distinguishing sounds in our own brain would be different then?
What it means is that what I believe it means is, so if you think of that on a small scale, and that's just hearing, there's also visual ones like the dress and the guy on the swing.
But I can see both.
And on some of those you can see both. Yeah, and Brainstorm
the guy
Green
hitting,
Needle.
is he a lefty or a righty?
Right.
He's both.
You can see both.
You can see both.
So if you really work on it, usually you'll get to the point where you'll be able to hear Laurel and Yanni or Brainstorm and Green Needle both.
Can I ask you a question? And this is a diversion from what we're talking about. Because I hear a car alarm outside. Mm-hmm. Who the hell has car alarms anymore? I mean, I have one, but it doesn't do this. I feel like this is only an LA thing where just like random car alarms go off just for no reason.
What? Yeah, like what's the... Do we even need
what the hell?
that anymore? Like,
what is that? Do people look and are like, car alarm? Should I help?
So, right. So this is a good example of stuff being behind the times a little bit. Like we need to get caught up in our car alarms because it just,
Well, and who is anyone looking? It's not doing what it's intended to do.
Well, that's what I say about fire alarms too. Is we're at the point now with car alarms where if you hear a car alarm,
you ignore it.
Everybody's trained to think that car alarms mean nothing. So why do we have car alarms? If a fire alarm goes off in my building, it happens every 2 weeks. Like, everybody would just burn up in the fire because nobody would know
If it's
to
real,
go out
why is it going off?
because it's just because
Faulty?
somebody pulls a thing or somebody's cooking
What?
too much
Who's doing
smoke
that?
and it triggers the.
Who's pulling the fire alarm?
It's just
It's
somebody
you,
who's
isn't it?
mad. Yeah, it's me pranking. No, it's like, so we're at a point now where,
It's brain needle.
we're trained to think that.
Final answer.
But anyway, back to Brainstorm, Green Needle, Yanni Laurel. Those are just small examples of what the two movies on one screen is on a bigger level, on a grander scale, which is that if that's happening on that small of a scale
Right.
with just hearing and vision, like, think about perception and how far that could go on a bigger scale.
Right.
Because if you're sitting in reality and you're only hearing Yanni, but other people are hearing Laurel, imagine if you're sitting in a reality and you're liking Trump and other people
Right.
are not liking Trump and vice versa. So that person is literally experiencing Yanni Laurel, but in a huge perception way.
So, and knowing all of this, because it all obviously makes sense, and I think our listeners and viewers would agree
Mhm.
that it's a mind fuck
Mhm.
times 10.
Times 10.
How do we communicate as humans, knowing that we each are living in our own reality? So then, in that case, when you go to if you watch a court hearings or someone's up for murder, their reality is that they had to do it because they were going to be attacked, whatever it is, and then the prosecution saying no, you absolutely did it on purpose. So then who's right and who's wrong at that point? Because it's like two different realities.
Well, I think that's, and that brings up a whole other, bigger can of worms, because it's like, if it goes as far as, people who are criminals and such, I mean, you really can't, like, people who are doing that, like, are really bad. Like, that's bad.
Yeah,
like,
but you don't like, I don't know if you guys watch the Netflix, I Am a Killer, but I'm obsessed with that stuff.
Mhm.
They have a new season out and you watch it and the person who's on death row is giving their point of view and what transpired in the events. And then the people that were actually there or friends of them or family of the victim, completely different. So then it's like, okay, is someone actually lying? Maybe not. Maybe the actual person that did the crime was living in a different reality than the people on the other side. So then at that point,
Wow, like, it's just like, how far does it extend?
how far does
this
it
stuff?
actually extend to this stuff? And here in the US, we're judged by 12 jurors.
Mhm.
How do you know that they're not taking their own preconceived notions in their own reality and placing it into how they judge their own peers?
Right. So when people start thinking in these terms, what happens to the world and society?
I think it implodes. I think this is a terrible topic.
She's lying.
Well,
She's lying.
I
She doesn't really think
mean,
that.
I don't think it's a terrible topic. I think it could, you start opening a can of worms, you might as well just open it all the way at that point. Because if we're living in two separate realities, you can go down a really weird rabbit hole with this topic and be like, well, then what is real?
I think you have to think to yourself about the limitations of things too, and how far does it go? And, I don't have the exact answer for why, what could come of this or what that means or where it's going. But I think that we need to start seeing things from a wider perspective, but also realize that there's limitations, because I really don't know how far it could go, but I do believe that there's a lot of truth to the side of understanding that what a person is experiencing on a given topic, any topic that we debate, is something that they're really experiencing. And I know to some degree, at least, part of how I came to this realization about myself is I got it. I learned a lot of this, honestly, in acting class.
Right.
And I wonder why there's not more artists and actors who understand that
And live it.
Because the big things that you're taught in acting are don't judge the character,
Right.
because you have to find what's in the character in you. You're taught don't judge the character, and you're also taught, we were taught that you have to be in the moment, which is just living in
present,
moment to moment.
Right.
And the third thing is that character. I mean, Stanislavski, who's an acting teacher, Russian acting teacher, taught. The third thing he taught was a point of view. That a character is a point of view. Well, what's a point of view? A point of view is seeing things from your perspective. So it's hard for me to understand why more artists, me being one myself, don't look around and see like that person seeing that from that point of view. Why are they seeing it from that point of view? So I try to understand why they're seeing it from that point of view, like where they're coming from.
You know why? Because I was just thinking while you're talking. I mean, we're brother and sister, so that would never happen, obviously. But I'm just saying you would make a good partner, because if you think about it, how many times have you been in fights and you're like, why do you think that way? How do you? You're out of your brain. You're not thinking clearly, and you're constantly like criticizing them for their own view of how they're viewing their own reality.
Right.
So then in your case, you're saying, I want to clarify why you see it that way. And instead of judging the person and saying, you're right, or, you're wrong, I'm right, there needs to be a common thread or a common place that we can both come to.
Because they're experiencing their own, and I'm experiencing mine.
Go to the lobby and get popcorn together.
And get popcorn together in the lobby.
Both movies.
Bam. That's right. I mean, that's really what it is.
What a catch you are. That's truly, I mean that in a very sincere way, because there are a lot of people that aren't able to see another side. They only see their own reality. I mean, this could have massive effects on people's relationships if you are actually able to look past your own view and believe that what the person is actually seeing in their reality is their reality. It's not that they're lying or doing something against you on purpose. They're doing it because that's all they see in their own reality. You can't fault the person for that.
I think people have trouble getting there, though. I think that's the
Well, of course, everybody wants to be right.
Is they don't.
Nobody wants to be wrong, but in this case, no one's wrong.
Correct.
I still think it would have massive ramifications as it pertains to like law.
Yeah, I think it does.
Because
that's why I think there needs to be limitations.
Nobody's wrong.
That's why there need to be limitations on it. That's right. I do think, though, don't you find it interesting, though? I find at least the acting perspective makes it easier to see what it is.
For sure.
But nobody, I don't know why more people don't. I mean, maybe it's just I don't know. I've never understood why.
Jeff, not everyone can be as perfect as you. I mean, let's just put it that way.
No, like I am I want to know what they're experiencing and what all of that, what they're going through in that reality, like what they're experiencing, why they like or dislike, a certain policy or a certain, what is it like? Well, to find the common ground, like that's what I go for, is to try to understand why
it's
and what that movie's like.
Because it's actually being empathetic.
Apathetic.
Empathetic.
Empathetic. Okay.
Yeah. So you're wanting to see the other person's side.
Yes.
It's true. That's what it is.
100%. 100%. So I think that, and we'll do more podcasts on this in the future because it's a very broad topic, but I think that we get to a better world when people can recognize that people are experiencing a different reality with an asterisk of restrictions, because how far do you go with it with law, as you said, and that stuff. But I think we see it with, there's so many topics could just go down the list of people seeing things in two different ways.
Right.
We don't need to, we could do that in a continued one because the political topics really spark people. But I think that it's a good topic. And there's people that are in the room here. We've got Amanda, people think that also do it on a different frequency, which causes people with different levels of hearing to hear one thing and someone else to hear another. Oh, that's regarding Yanni and Laurel. That's interesting.
Right.
Susan says she could only hear Laurel only. Don't they know you're running a live show here? She's laughing about that's about the car alarm. That's funny. Yeah, right. NPC.
Oh, I know we're on a live show.
Yeah. We know.
Yeah.
Or she's saying, doesn't the car?
Oh yeah, right.
Like we're on a live show. Like, come on, your dang car alarms.
Importance here.
Amanda's right.
Shit, Launch Radio's live. Everyone, be quiet.
Seriously, like
no dogs barking. Do you hear my dogs losing control? No. I told them we have Launch Radio today, guys. We're all going to be very quiet, right?
They are great audience members. Let me tell you. I mean, they deserve a round of applause. Without a doubt. Applause sign. Our studio is being assembled still. We're working on that. Jim Jones says NPC. Yeah, that's part of the simulation theory thing, that there's like PCs and NPCs. Have you heard of that?
And I haven't heard of NPC.
NPC is non-player character.
Oh, right.
So there's player characters and non-player characters. So he's talking about that. Then we've got...
I'm like, I play RPG. Do you know what RPG is?
What's RPG?
Role-playing games. Instead of first shooter games, you do role-playing games.
Where you do like Doom?
No, Doom would be considered first shooter.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, and Halo.
That's a classic one.
Yeah, I do role-playing, like Fable. If you guys know old school games, Fable. What's another one? Anyways. Go on.
No, but those are all the realities in their own self. And it also brings up like virtual reality and like where is all that going, which is also fascinating enough. That's a whole other discussion which we've discussed before. Is like,
well, especially since if you're seeing a different reality, even with goggles on, you're still going to see a different reality than the next person, right? Not everybody would see the exact same virtual reality.
Everybody, right? So this plays into simulation theory as well. Everything that's simulation theory is very like. It's all connected in this way. It's very interesting, actually.
I think it was a good topic today, Geoff. I mean, I think it was...
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't want to do this one.
She was hesitant about it, but she did it. She did it.
I did.
Ceiling Fan Man says, loading your show, my phone loaded a Domino's Pizza commercial that makes fun of risky business, and he's wearing a pink shirt and no sunglasses. That's funny. That's ironic. He's talking about a Mandela effect.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so people are loading up the show. Yeah, this was a good one today. So we wanted to just introduce that topic, talk about it, get people's opinions. I talked about it more on a Periscope I did. Check out Scott Adams. He talks about it all the time. He's amazing. He started it in 2016. We'll do more on this topic in the future. We've touched on it in other episodes, but think about the two movies on one screen and what we said, because it is interesting as far as where that's headed.
I think the minute you can put it into your own life and before you start to make judgments of someone's beliefs, I think you have to stop yourself and say, what movie are they in? Are they in my movie? Are they in a different movie?
I think you have to, I really think...
make the world a better place.
At least in one-on-one debates and confrontation and relationships, like you said, like it's a good way to try to see the other perspective instead of just reacting that you're right and they're wrong.
Right.
Be okay with being wrong. And by the way, I said this a lot, like I am great with being wrong. I have no problem with being wrong.
Are you good at apologizing?
No problem with apologizing.
There's people that like literally can't apologize. It's like a burst to their like ego,
There are people.
And they're just like, no. And they like steadfast, I'm right. And you're like, just apologize.
There are people who can't do it.
No, it's very interesting. What a catch you are.
Oh, Kira. Oh, Kira.
As I'm trying to set him up.
She's just, my sister is like amazing.
From a different mister.
I'll tell you what, but yes, it's very interesting how, it does help people to see, it helps you see the other perspective, I guess you could say. I forget where I was going with that.
I'm just happy I got out of my hood.
She got out of her hood.
That was a successful day.
You did it. How'd you do it? You just pulled it down.
I mean, I think I ripped some of my hair out in order to get it down.
It looks great,
Does it?
Kira. You look amazing.
My makeup is still okay.
Perfect. Like, could not
30
be
minutes
more
later,
perfect.
How do I look?
She's fantastic, right? Everybody, I mean, just amazing as always. She's, yeah. So,
Episode 34? 33?
Episode 33. Launch Radio, 2 movies on 1 screen. Thank you guys for tuning in. Feel free to comment. Thank you, YouTube commenters, Twitter.
We'll
Facebook.
see you guys in a week.
We will see you guys in 1 week. More fun to come. Here at Launch Radio, we are the future, and the future is Launch Radio. Geoff and Kira. Peace.
Bye, guys.